Okay. Okay. So welcome. So Chaf, hey, I'm at a base. So I'm going to start Chazara of the last lesson. So approximately halfway down the page. Amar Rabbi Abba Bazavta Amar Rav. So it says it twice. There. So first word of the line is Mar. About halfway down the page. It's Mar, then the second word. Okay. So Amar Rabbi Abba Bazavta Amar Rav. So Rabbi Abba, the son of Zavda, said the name of Rav, Avl Chayiv B'Sukkah. A mourner, God forbid, is Chayiv in the mitzvah of Sukkah. So the Gemara asks, Peshita, that's obvious, right? We just said before that we just said before that a mourner is obligated to do everything except tefillin. So it's everything except tefillin. Then obviously Sukkah is included in everything. So why would you think that the sukkah is not included? Okay, so we're halfway on the base, about halfway down. Because Ma'u the Tamer, you might have thought to say, Hayil v'amar Rabbi Abba Bazavta Amarav. That's the first words on the line, if you're still looking for it. That since Rabbi Abba Bazavta also said the name of Rav, mitztayr potem in a sukkah, someone who's they're literally in pain, but they're having problems, they're in distress. They are exempt from the sukkah. So you might have thought, Haimani, this person also Starhu. This mourner, he's experiencing discomfort. So you might have thought that he is exempt from the sukkah. Kamash Malan, so along comes the Torah and tells us, Hani Mili, when does this apply? Tzara de Ma'ela. This means a tsar that's from the sukkah itself. From the sukkah itself. But in this case, it's he himself, he's causing distress to himself. Right? I mean, obviously he didn't cause to himself, his relative passed away, but in other words, it's coming from within him. He's thinking about his loss. So therefore, he's required to calm his mind and be in the sukkah. So just to mention very quickly, so we'll end up there's three types of discomfort for a sukkah. Right? So there's the discomfort from the sukkah itself, or the environment of the sukkah itself. Let's say it's incredibly hot or incredibly cold, or it's pouring down with rain, or something like that. So the same way a person meant to live in the sukkah like they live in their own house. If a person had a house and one room the rain was pouring in, he wouldn't stay in that room. He'd move to a different room, right? Or there's one room where there's air conditioning and one room where there's not, and it's very hot. So you don't stay in the very hot room. You go to the other part of the house where there's air conditioning. So the same thing. This person, he's in the sukkah. He's meant to live there like he live in his house. So it's pouring down with rain, or it's incredibly hot, or whatever happens to be. He's exempt from the sukkah because you wouldn't live in your own house like that. So part of living in the sukkah like your own house means you leave that part of the house and you go so he goes indoors or wherever he goes. So that's one type of star. The next type is it's something that it's not from the sukkah, and it's something you could potentially remove. So let's say, for example, let's say there were mosquitoes. Okay, now sometimes you can't remove the mosquitoes, but sometimes you can. Person could get a zapper, they could spray something maybe, and they put some citronella, and the mosquitoes will be gone. Okay, it's not always so simple, but that's just as an example. So then he's obligated to do that. Person's obligated to do what he needs to do to make the sukkah comfortable enough that he's happy being there. And if he doesn't, so he's messed up both ways. because you can't really go into the house because you would fix it. You would address this situation within your house. But you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of sukkah because you're being mitzvah, you're having distress, you're having discomfort. So the person has to in that situation, a person is obligated to remedy the situation. Then the third type is if it comes from him. So in this case, he's a mourner. So when does he feel sad? When he is thinking about his loss. Just also mention, and this is revision this part, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just another point to mention. We know that Yom Tov cancels out Shiva. So if let's say the person, the funeral was a day or two before Sukkot, let's say for example, we're talking about Sukkah, and then Sukkah starts, the Shiva is cancelled, so he's actually not an oval. He's not in the halachic category of an oval in that respect. So it's obligated anyway. So what's the Gemara even speaking about? When do you even have an oval that would have to you would have this issue? So it would have to be a situation, if someone passed away on Yom Tov. Right, so the person would have to have passed away on Yom Tov. In that case, the Yom Tov didn't cancel it out because it's happened right now. That's the situation. So once he started Shiva, then Yom Tov is going to.
Rabbi, don't we have a question that isn't there? Well, he's on in until he's. I mean, it's Yom Tov, so how does it work that
maybe you could
that
bury
he's
him
an? How does he
second
go from
day.
on in to Aver?
Yeah, it could be they buried him second day Yom Tov. It could be
Okay.
Chol Hamoed. There's still the idea of Sukkah, but that's right. So the Onan would well again, let's say it was first day Yom Tov. The reason that a person is exempt from mitzvahs when he's an Onan, right? Onan being from the time of passing until the funeral to the Levi, is because he's involved in the burial of the deceased. It's also an aspect of grief, but it's also an aspect because he's involved in, and as we learned before, when you Isaac in one mitzvah, you're part from another mitzvah. He has to be in charge of burial. So first day Yom Tov, you can't bury. So he doesn't have that issue. It's not like it was a regular Wednesday or something. So that would also change the situation slightly. Okay. Rama Rabbi Abba Bazavda Amarav. So Rabbi Abba we've got a few rulings over here. The Rabbi Abba, son of Zavda, said the name of Rav. Chosen. The Chosen, the Hashushvinin, right? The Shushvinin, there's really not an equivalent in English, so we'll explain in a moment. They're often translated as groomsmen, but we'll see exactly what the halachic parameters are. The Chobanei Chuppah, and everyone involved in the wedding, but turning in a sukkah called Shiva. They are potter, they're exempt from the mitzvah the entire days of Sheva Brachos, 7 week. So the chosen, the groom, we know who he is, right? Who are the shushvinin? These are people who again, it's not something that's really done today, but in the past, people would make a commitment to each other. It's a formal commitment that they would come and celebrate each other's wedding, and they also they brought gifts. So essentially, they subsidize each other's wedding. So let's say he had there was a group of 10. So all 9 come along, and one of them brings meat, another one brings wine, another one brings whatever they bring, and the person who they brought it to, when he goes to their wedding, he brings back the same gift that they brought for him. So this is that's what Shushvinim. So it's actually a formal obligation. You can even enforce it in Beis Din, right? one of the people didn't want to contribute when it's his turn. You have to, it's even enforceable. So seemingly, and it's not what we did today, but seemingly at the time, or at least according to this version of what Rav says, during Sheva Brachas, you don't need to go to the Sukkah. So my timer, how come? What's the reason? So we said, Mishum Daboy Lemichte, because they have to rejoice. Right? Again, you're Isaac in one mitzvah, you're part from the other mitzvah. You're very busy rejoicing with the chosin, you're doing the mitzvah, making the chosin happy. And so you're not able to do other mitzvahs. So ask the Gemara, why not? Let them go eat in the sukkah, or go to the sukkah, and rejoice in the sukkah. So we answer, Ein simcha ela b'chuppah. The only way you can have real rejoicing is when we say chuppah here, we don't mean the actual canopy, we mean the marriage residence. Right? There was a home where they got married and they had the chuppah and they had all the celebrations there. And usually that became the groom's house. So that's where you have the rejoicing. That's where it works. Okay, so the Gemara still asks, if that's the case, go to the sukkah. In other words, eat your meals in the sukkah and do the rejoicing in the marriage residence. So you'll go in, have something to eat, and then go and dance in the marriage residence. Why are they mutually exclusive? So he answers, Ein simcha makom suda. The only rejoicing, the real rejoicing, is where you have the feast. And it's not just that's where the wedding feast was. And so you need to have a meal there and enjoy and party. That's, what's a party with no food? Okay, so we keep with another question. If that's the case, we'll live the chuppah b'sukkah. Let's make the marriage residence in the sukkah. Let's have the wedding there. Let's have all the feast there. Let's have all the party there, and everything's in the sukkah. We take care of all the problems. So we're going to give two answers of why we can't do that. Abaye says mishum yichud. We can't do this because of yichud, of seclusion with a married woman. Right? So often what happened is that they used to build the sukkahs on the roof. Right? The houses, Talmudic times, used to have flat roofs. So, and then they're all in the courtyards and all little houses open to one courtyard. There wasn't space for everyone to have their own chuppah, so their own sukkah there usually, because also the cooking was done in the courtyard, and people had animals, so they made the sukkah on the roof of the home. So they were rather secluded. So if that became the marriage residence, then if the bridegroom stepped out, whatever, he had to go to the bathroom, then a male visitor might come by and be secluded with the bride, to be yichud. So that's problematic. So that's Abaye's answer. For Rava Amar, Rava says mishum sar chosin. You can't do that because it's painful. It's discomfort to the groom, right? Everyone else is having the chasna, the sheva brachas at a nice fancy, I'm not going to say hall because it's in the house, but nicely decorated house, and he's in this little hut. There's that's not how it's gonna work. Also, most sukkahs didn't have four walls in those days, so it'd be hard for them to have privacy with the bride afterwards, right? So that's what Rava says. So ask the Gemara, my Benehu, what's the difference between them? I mean, the bottom line, they're both agreeing to the same thing. You can't have the wedding residence in the sukkah. So, but they give different reasons. So the fact they give a reason, there must be something that one holds on, the other one doesn't. What's beneath it? So, the difference between is as follows. Let's say it's a place where it's common for people to come and go there. All right, it's his sukkah's on the main road, or he's got a big courtyard. It's not discreet on the roof. There's people coming and going. It's a hub of activity. So if that was the situation, the man da am mishum yichud, the one who says that the reason you can't have the marriage residence in the sukkah is because of yichud, like we're not worried about it. There's no yichud there. There's always people there. However, the man da am mishum sar chosen, the one who says that it's because of the stress of the bridegroom, the ikka there is. They still don't have that. Nevertheless, even though we have this discussion, Amar Rab Zaira says, he's talking about by his chasna. Ana achli besukkah, I ate in the sukkah, v'chade b'chuppah, and rejoiced in marriage residence. He says there's no problems. V'chol shekain, and how much more so the chade libay did my heart rejoice. I was even happier. Why? Because I did both mitzvahs. So he actually said not only did the eating in the sukkah not take away from his wedding joy, it enhanced his wedding joy because he got to do multiple mitzvahs. It made it a bigger celebration. Okay, before we go on, I just want to speak a little bit about the week of Sheva Brachos.
Yeah.
Right. So let's first just get the basic mitzvah. So the idea is that if during these 7 days during the meal, if there's a minyan of men and other conditions, right? So let's say you need to generally have a new face there, someone that didn't join in the celebration till now. So it's so to speak, it's not just the same celebration being rehashed. There's a element of something extra because someone else is there. Then it creates extra joy. And so at the meal, we say the Sheva Brachos again. Now the purpose is to thank Hashem, to bless the bride and groom, and also we end up, we're thanking Hashem for creation, if you look at it, for the world, for people, and we're also davening for the redemption to rebuild Yerushalayim. That's the Sheva Brachos. Now, since it's a big deal to the bride and groom, it's something that's important and it's beneficial, right? The blessings are beneficial for them. So ideally, you should have a meal every day, so they can say the Sheva Brachos there. However, it's not an obligation. There's not an obligation in this. So if you can't hold a meal, maybe they don't have the money, or they don't have relatives and friends to make for them, they're not obligated to do so, even though you should. Right? Just as a side point on this. My son's brother-in-law, right, his wife's brother. So they we made a Sheva Brachos. Actually, we made more than one, but we made a Sheva Brachos, and they'd recently sort of moved to town, to here, and didn't really know a lot of people, so we and both families lived elsewhere. So we had to we asked some of our friends to come. So we asked one of the rabbis in the community. We're not going to say names. Asked one of the rabbis in the community if he would like to. Remember, we have to have new faces. We did 2, so we had to have new faces at both. So we asked one of the rabbis in the community if he would like to come, and so he says to me, look, there's no obligation to make Sheva Brachos. You don't have to do it. So I didn't say what I wanted to say because it's not polite. I was going to say, okay, you're right. Okay, I also learned the Shulchan Aruch, but what if you didn't have Sheva brachas? You missed out one day. Would you still say, oh, it's not, or one of your kids or something, right? So it's true, it's not obligation, but it's very beneficial and it's a big celebration and something that people feel as part of the wedding experience. And so it's something that really should be done if possible. So in our Gemara here, we seem to be saying that these Sheva brachas, this week of celebration, is all in the groom's house, right? And that's how it was done. Now we see today, generally speaking, it's not in the groom's house, right? We have all these. So what's going on? So the question is, what is the halacha, right? The Gemara is saying it's all in the groom's house, so much so we can't even go to the sukkah. Maybe, I mean, we say that we can in the end, but we had a thought maybe we can't even go to the sukkah, even though it's on the roof of the groom's house. So what happens? Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch rules that you can only have the Sheva brachas in the groom's house. And we have many Rishonim they base on this. There's a Taisus, there's a Rashba, there's others, right? And because that's when the bride and groom they're more honored and happy when people come to their home and make them happy. So that's number one. So, and again, you can already see how these things have changed a little bit. That generally speaking, we don't have the wedding celebration in their home. We have in halls, different things. So it's already where even the first show brachas are moving out of the house, right? That's other Rishonim. Example, the Meiri, the Ravid. They say no. You can say show brachas any place where a meal is held in honor of the chassan and kala, of the bride and groom. Let someone in. Right? It doesn't have to be in the groom's house. And many of the achronim who discuss this, post Shulchan Aruch, they say that they say that's the case, and say even when Shulchan Aruch says that you should be in the groom's house, that was because that was what was customary in the past. People used to do that. They used to have the wedding and the entire 7 days in the groom's house, and that's the place where the bride and groom slept, and they were happy. They'd have the meals there, and they did everything, and they didn't really leave the house an entire week. And if they had to leave the house for any reason, this would like sort of take away from their happiness and the joy, from the honor. So that's why it was like that in the past. Today, they do leave the house. Right? Today, the wedding itself is not in the house. So the situation has changed. People aren't going to feel like the honor was cheated because they had to go somewhere else or share brachas. As a matter of fact, they're normally happy, even happier that someone else, was my uncle's doing this for me, right? And so it ended up at one stage there was a difference of minhag between Ashkenazim and Sephardim. It used to be the Sephardim did what the Shulchan Aruch says, only in the groom's house. And if they had it in a different house, they didn't make Sheva brachas. They only said the bracha of Asher Bara in someone else's house. And Ashkenazim did it everywhere. And just a side point to this, the Yalkut Yosef, right? Rav Avadia, he actually says if there happens to be an Ashkenazi at the Sheva brachas, right? So it's a Sephardi that's only going to make the last bracha, and there's Ashkenazi there, and he wants to do other brachas, you don't have to stop him. So that's just a side point to that. So that's what happened in the past. But it seems again, I'm not an expert in Sephardic minhagim, but it seems from the Svarim that most Sephardic poskim agreed today that where it's become the norm to have the celebrations in other people's homes, that they recite all Sheva brachas in the homes. So that started off the first recorded Sephardic posek who ruled was the Radbaz, right? He was I think grew up in Turkey, and the Maritz in Yemen, and so that's what it seems that most Sephardim today do the same as Ashkenazim. They have Sheva Brachas, the full Sheva Brachas. Yeah, Victor.
So yeah, our rabbi said, if possible, if you go to a Shev Brachot for Ashkenazim, let's say I'm Sephardi, which I am,
Yeah.
tell them if preference would be to do the last bracha, and but he said otherwise, but don't insult them. If they give you something,
So in your
you,
community, they only still say the last bracha. That's all
well,
this
no, he
is.
said
Yeah,
ideally, try to be the one, the bracha
yeah.
that
That's if you went to an
starts.
Ashkenazi, but in your community, it's a wedding in your community. The bride and groom are both from your community, and the phone your community's been arguing. Do they do the Sheva brachas in the groom's house?
No, but then so
No.
if they do it in the shul or a hall, but they would have the Ashkenazim that are guests would ideally say the brachot, except
No.
for the one.
And if there was an Ashkenazi, what happens?
I've never been I've never been in that situation.
Okay, Baruch Hashem, the beauty of today's world, all Jews are intermingled. We've got the unity, and we can go for it. Okay, so that's interesting. So because I know often Ashkenazim they lump all Sephardim into one community, and just like in Ashkenazi you got multiple minhagim, you have by Sephardim also. So what community do you belong to?
My family's Syrian.
Syrian.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I see here the ones who said you say all of nowadays. One Rav was in Turkey, one was in Yemen, one was in Jerba. I know where Jerba is. It's Morocco or
That's
something, no?
Tunisian, I think.
Tunisia. Okay.
Yeah,
So the ones who say that they do like the Ashkenaz nowadays is not the Syrian, wasn't a Syrian Rav. So Posik. So there we go. All right. So that's what's behind, So even though the Gemara is seemingly saying the Shiva Brachas is only in the groom's house, because that was the norm. They didn't leave the house. And also today, when they do leave the house, that's one of the reasons that is the primary reason we have a shomer, right? There's a shomer before the chuppah. That's for a different reason. Shomer before the chuppah is to primarily, again, it's also a bit of an honor guard, but it's primarily to stop the chassan and kala from seeing each other, because most Jews have the custom they don't see each other during the week for the wedding. And however, after the wedding, the idea of the shema is to give them an honor guard, the glory, even though they're going out. So they're accompanied by have this honor guard. It's what they have. Okay.
right. It's another difference. We would take pictures, the Chatan and Kala together even before the ceremony. They would do pictures. They would see each other at
Yeah,
the
that's
day of the
that's the
wedding.
day of the wedding or the
Yeah,
whole week.
I don't know about the rest of the week, but I know the day of the
Yeah.
wedding, it's to take the pictures before is common for the Sardine.
Today it's interesting. One of my son's weddings, it was did an interesting job. So often when they don't take the pictures together beforehand, what happens is after chasna afterwards is taken out with family pictures. So this guy had a good chap. He took the family pictures beforehand with you standing a little bit apart, leaving a space for the chasna color. And then afterwards, he photoshopped the pictures of the chasna color into the family picture. So that's so one of our sons. We have that's the whole group family pictures that.
The photography's come a long way. I mean, you couldn't
That's
do
it.
50 years ago, you couldn't pull that off.
No, no, you certainly couldn't. So that's how it goes. So today, all these things we can do. All right. So still speaking about this, these the Shushvinin, right? So again, we said these are the people that weren't just friends; they made a pact. They actually made a kinyan on it, and they brought gifts and they had obligation. Ton Rabbanon. So at the bottom of the page, second Chaf Hey on base, second last line. Ton Rabbanon. So rabbis taught in a brisa. Chosin v'Shushvinin v'Chabnei Chuppah. The Chosin, the Shushvinin, and all the members of the everyone who's at the wedding, Baturim and Tefillah, the potter, they're exempt from davening, minute Tefillin, from Tefillin. The Chayav Mikri Shema. However, they are obligated to say Shema. Now, this is not the din, but this Tana of this brisa, and quite possibly, already in the times of the Mishnah wasn't accepted halacha. That's why it wasn't incorporated into the Mishnah. Right? In the Mishnah, all we did was we brought the opinion, and even then it was disputed, but at least there was an opinion that the bridegroom is exempt from Shema. But the film we didn't mention, we didn't say any of these things, but we have this Tanaic opinion that's the case. So why did he say that? Okay, for davening he says because based on the principle of oisk mitzvah potem in a mitzvah, if you're involved in one mitzvah, you're exempt from a different mitzvah. So right now you're rejoicing with the chos and the kala, so there's no need for mariv. Tefillin, he says, because they're concerned, at the wedding party, people will have a few drinks sometimes, and perhaps they're not in a position to be able to treat that tefillin, or they should be in the frame of mind for tefillin after they've had a few l'chaims. And in those days, also don't forget, we take a lot of things for granted today. We have clean drinking water, which a lot of places didn't have in the past. And this at a chasna, you have soda and salsa and all these various things. In those days, there wasn't. You drank wine. That's what you drank. You went out to eat. Drank wine. Maybe at home you could boil some water or something, but there wasn't certainly not enough for a wedding party. So so besides any l'chaims, people are just drinking wine with their meal. So that's another, and also therefore they're not able to concentrate on the Shema. Now
Rabbi,
Shema, yeah,
we have a minhag that on a minor fast for mincha, by Syrians that would put on tefillin for mincha on even the minor fast. So and also
okay,
erev Yom Kippur for mincha. Also, we have the same minhag to wear
okay,
tefillin.
because people wouldn't have drunk. Yeah. So in the Ashkenaz we have I guess the only difference is that we in the Chazan repetition we say the priestly blessing, which we don't say normally in the afternoon for the same reason. The reason people may have drunk something. That's right. In concept, tefillin belongs by every Shemon Esrei. I mean, not Maariv because at night time we don't wear them, but in concept, that definitely does apply. So that's okay. Thank you for sharing that. I'm learning new things. So one opinion is that they're all exempt from these things. And Rabbi Shayla Omru, but quoting Rabbi Shila, they said Chosin Potter, the groom is exempt, and he only says from Shema, not from the other things, like our Mishnah says. And everyone else is obligated. Everyone else is obligated. Now, just to understand the reasoning behind. So he agrees in principle, right, with the Tanakama. The Tanakama of this brisa, the first opinion of this brisa is saying that if you're involved in a mitzvah, you're exempt from another mitzvah. So he says that's the case. Right? He agrees with that. But he says there's a big difference. The big difference. Um, He says that the bridegroom himself is exempt from Shema because it's very difficult to focus your concentration saying Shema. He's in the middle of his mitzvah. It's applying to him personally. He's going to have the mitzvah consummated in the marriage afterwards. It's very difficult for him to take his mind off that. While the other people put on tefillin, even if they just put it on for Shema or to daven, other people are able to do that. They're able to they're able to divert their attention and to be able to do that. Okay. Just to mention also, one of the things is although today we generally the Chosn does say Shema, right? He does say the Shema. Already in Talmudic times, the Chosn was saying the Shema already, because our Shema wasn't so it's not so great to start with, so it's not necessarily going to be any worse. As a matter of fact, we have an opinion that someone who in Gemara Brachos, we have an opinion that someone who doesn't say Shema because he says, "Oh, I can't concentrate like I normally do," he's already being conceited. Who's he think he is? That he is such a great Shema, and now all of a sudden he's so preoccupied with a mitzvah that he can't focus on Shema. So that's that. But what we do is that the chosin does not have any alcoholic beverage at the chasna. She doesn't have l'chaim, doesn't drink wine. Very simple. I mean, they have a sip of the wine under the chuppah, a sip of the wine, the shel brachos perhaps, but they don't drink anything else, because we don't want him to. We want him to be able to focus on the mitzvah when it comes time. Okay. Next in. So we're finished with the chosn and kallah for the time being, and we're discussing now again this idea of oisik mitzvah potem in mitzvah. So we're going to see it goes even further. What this next price is going to say is not only a person who's currently doing a mitzvah themselves, but even someone who's doing something which facilitates a mitzvah. So what do we have? So Tanya. So we're Chaf Vav Amud Aleph, and we are the second line, last word of the line. Tanya, it's taught in the Brisa. Amar Rabbi Chananya ben Ekavia. Chananya ben Ekavia says, Kaisveis forim tefillim mezuzos. The Sefer who writes svarim, in this case we're talking about Torah scrolls, or tefillin or mezuzahs, pain, they, so not only the people who are writing, but they're merchants, right? In other words, the people who buy from the Seifrim and sell to others. The Sagrehem, so now even talking about you got a wholesaler in the middle, and now you're talking about the guy in the Judaica store who's selling. And everyone who is involved in some type of heavenly work, doing something for a mitzvah. Who do we mean by anyone who's involved? We even include the people who are selling techelis, the blue wool for tzitzis. So even those people, but Turin, the Krishma, they're exempt from the Shema, minat tefillah, and from davening, minat tefillin, and from putting on tefillin. The kol mitzvahs amuras of Torah and all the other mitzvahs of the Torah. Why? The kaim to fulfill Divrei Rabbi Yossi Galili, the words of Rabbi Yossi Galili. What did he say? So Rabbi Yossi Galili, Rabbi Yossi Galili said, Oisik b'mitzvah potem in mitzvah. Someone who's involved in one mitzvah is exempt from all other mitzvahs. Now, on the surface, this seems ludicrous. Obviously, nothing's ludicrous in the Gemara, but I'm saying on the surface, because if you imagine today, when we look for a sefer, see, buying tefillin mezuzah is the smallest thing can pass them, and sometimes you can't tell. There are things that you can never tell, right? So we know, for example, tefillin and mezuzahs, not a Torah scroll, but tefillin and mezuzahs have to be written in order, every letter in order. If it's written out of order, it's impossible. Sorry, it's possible. It's no good if it's written out of order. So there was one sofer who apparently had a beautiful Kislev, and people used to chase after his tefillin, but apparently he wasn't very learned. And so they asked him one time, "Do you go to mikveh before you write Hashem's name?" Which is a hiddur mitzvah, so a good thing to do. He says he does it every time he writes Hashem's name, not just once in the day, but every time. They said, "Well, doesn't that make the tefillin take a long time to write?" He says, "No, what I do is he writes the tefillin and he leaves a blank by Hashem's name each time, and he goes to mikveh and he does that. So those tefillin were all possible. But there's no way you could tell. How can you tell someone's written once the ink is dried? If it was written, I mean, you could tell someone was written 10 years ago and someone was written today, but you can't tell if they were written 5 hours later or something. How can you tell? So there are so many things. So you need the biggest Yiras Shamayim.
Oh,
Right? You have a question? No, you need the biggest Yiras Shamayim for tefillin, mezuzahs, and different things. That's besides you want the kavanahs and etc. So imagine going today to a sefer that didn't put on tefillin, didn't daven, and didn't say Shema, right? No one would buy from that person in a million years. So what's the difference between then and what's the difference now? So as we said, just the first thing to say is that
they didn't show up last week.
these people themselves, they're not being involved in mitzvah. We're saying this to show the point. It's not only people involved in mitzvah right now, but even people facilitating a mitzvah. So even though they're providing, right? Even so, the store, the people who are selling it, right? Because their motivation is to provide the public with what they need for the mitzvahs. That's number one. So today, for sure, the storekeepers are out, or most storekeepers are out. Why? Because what made them involved in the mitzvah was that they were doing it primarily for the mitzvah. Today, most people is primarily for their livelihood. They may have chosen that livelihood because they want to do something that's a mitzvah, but their primary decision, the way they run their business of the Judaica store is as a business, right? It's not just for the mitzvah. So it's not a community co-op where you're working for free or very little, and you're just providing people religious needs, right? It's a business. So already those people aren't considered oisik b'mitzvah, so they're considered running their business. So that's the storekeepers. The Seifrim, so again, let's go the sidetrack. Let's go to a different mitzvah and we'll get it clear. We know, for example, Rabbi Shimon and his son, when they were in the cave, they daven once every 30 days. Right? They learned the entire time and they davened once every 30 days. Why? Because Tarasim Monoso, that's all they did. All they did was learn Torah. Now, they obviously slept. I mean, often we become aware of stories that Stickim sleep much less. But they have to sleep at some point. That's a human being. Right? They obviously ate something. Again, many Siddiqim eat compared to what most people eat, they eat nothing, but they're eating something. They had to go to the bathroom. Right? Again, there were times they stopped learning. So what's the difference between them and someone who's in kollel today that they learn? That we say, well, people today are stopping anyway. Well, they also stopped. What's the difference? So we're speaking about people who are on such a level that they are so focused on what they're doing. So let's talk about Rabbi Shimon because not life isn't always as black and white as the extremes we're speaking about, but extremes help us understand the concept easier. He was learning 100%. That's what he did. When eventually he went to sleep, it was 100% for the sake of learning. Right? The human body needs a break. So he had the minimum sleep necessary, and he was 100% motivated, not because he was tired. He took his feeling of tiredness as a sign that his body needs recovery time. So there was no personal motive. It was 100% to learn. And that's how we ate. 100% to learn. With the bathroom or other things he need to take care of his body. So it was if he was learning Torah, even when he was doing those other things. Because it's all for the, so it would be like, for example, a person when they're strapping on tefillin. So when you fulfill the mitzvah, when you tie it on, so you keep going till you put the head tefillin on, you're involved in doing the mitzvah. You've done it once you completed it, putting it on. But that minute or whatever it takes to put it on, even though at that moment you're not fulfilling the mitzvah, but you are in a way because you're in the process of doing it. It's totally for the sake, no one starts taking the tefillin out of the bag and lifting it to the head because it makes them feel happy or because, that's what their body craved. They're doing it in order to do the mitzvah. That's the sole purpose. So even though at that moment they didn't yet fulfill the mitzvah because they're in the process still, they didn't complete it, but it's as if they're doing the mitzvah. So that's how Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was about everything: the eating, the sleeping, bodily needs, whatever it was. It was 100% purely to facilitate his study of Torah. So today, when we have people, and have people who, and I'm not talking about the people who. There's always individuals who, they're just riding the system. But talking about people who are the majority, people who are dedicated, and they're learning, and they're sitting hours, and they're focusing concentration. But we all know how a human being works. Most of us regular people, yeah. When we go have a coffee break, yes, it's in order to have a little break so I can get back to the learning. But we're enjoying the coffee also. It's not. I'm not just stretching my legs because my body told me that I need to stretch my legs. It's also I'm enjoying stretching my legs. And when I take a nap, yes, it's because I'm tired and I want to be able to get up early tomorrow to go learn. But the fact is, I'm enjoying my good nap also. So it's not quite the same. So we stop anyway. So here we're speaking about people who, when they wrote fill-in mezuzahs, that was it. Nothing else existed. And their entire life revolved around that. There was a famous Sefer of Zirkin. I was showing passed away. He was an interesting man in many, many different ways. But he dedicated himself to many mitzvahs that weren't popular when he first dedicated himself to these mitzvahs. So one of the things in the mid-80s, when the Malach came with the idea that all children, all Jews, but started with children, should have a letter in a Sefer Torah. So today, people have a baby, so they buy a letter for the baby. So all right, so there's a certain amount of babies every day, however many comes. So the Sofrim can keep up with it. And there's a new Torah coming out every year, every few years. Another Torah. When they first came out with the campaign, so it wasn't just the babies who were born. Parents were buying for every child they had, multiple children, and there was a huge backlog when it first started. So he essentially he went to a corner in 770 where he wrote. He only came home for Shabbos, and he wrote 5 Sifrei Torahs in 2 years. Right, so you would say even a sofer is working a full day's work. Well, and truly, a full day work is going to take 9 months for sure. Maybe 6 months if he's super quick, and he's putting in 14, 15-hour days. But 5 Sifrei Torah in 2 years. That would be the closest we could get to people who are totally dedicated to the mitzvah. This was their mitzvah. This was their life. This wasn't to make a livelihood. A person doesn't need to write like that to make a livelihood. This was his dedication to the idea of what was happening. So just to give an idea of what we're talking about. We're not talking about people. Again, 2 of my sons are Sofrim, so we're certainly not knocking Sofrim. It's It's an incredible thing. And those have the ability. It's the most incredible thing. And they chose to go into profession like that because it is a holy profession, and it's something that that contributes to society and makes the world a better place. But it is their livelihood. Would they still write? Let's say they won $1 billion in the lotto. I think they would both still write, but certainly not the hours that they're writing now. Okay, one of them actually only writes a little bit each day because he's also a teacher in a yeshiva and different things. So maybe he'd end up doing the same. But most people, if they didn't have the financial pressure, they wouldn't be doing 12-hour days. Yes, they write a few hours a day, but that would be it. So it's a whole different. It's people who are doing it today. Again, it's not only because it's the mitzvah, it's the livelihood as well, and that's not called oisik b'mitzvah. That's also going to be an oisik in your livelihood, even though it is a mitzvah. The same as people in kollel today. It's obviously involved in a mitzvah, but it's they stop anyway. They do other things, different things. Just to mention, by the way, it's before I knew much about Safras, right? So about it's getting close to 25 years ago now. Learned Safras, so I was tested on the halachas. I passed Baruch Hashem, and the basic handiwork, we'll say the umanus, the practical side. I could make corrections, different things, but I don't have the hands for it, right? You have to. I always say I didn't learn how to write a mezuzah, but I sure know how to buy one, right? Because having studied the halachas and the letters and various things. But and it's a gift, and those who have the gift should do it. But when I first started looking into it, I was paying more attention to mezuzahs. Even if I wasn't purchasing, I was just looking around different things, and I noticed a very a major based in Eretz Yisrael, that a lot of mezuzahs that come out are under their, they give a hechsher to it to make sure it was done properly. And I actually, normally you just look at it. Oh, it's under this rabbi, that's it. But because I was looking at the Safras, I actually read what it said, all the things on the certificate. I was curious, what actually goes into it. And I noticed one of the things on the list was they weren't listening to the radio while they were writing. And I thought to myself, are you for real? You have to put that? Who wants a mezuzah? Okay. And then later on, I realized, there's people who are writing 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. And at a certain point, it becomes tedious. And there are some people, again, I'm not saying it's appropriate, and I'm saying they do it, but you could understand why someone might be listening to something. And therefore, one of the things that this place does, if they're going to put their name on it, the Sefer can't do that, which is as it should be, right? But so you see, like, just using an example of people today, if they're doing 14-hour days and different things, and if this is their sole livelihood, that's what they have to really do. And also, again, if you had a cipher that was doing it, he won the lotto or something, and he was writing just as a passion, he would probably write slower. He would be, even someone who's very careful to write beautifully. Not everyone. There are certain cipher who, and they write as long as it takes. And if they write less, they write less. There's certainly certain cipher like that. But many, again, it's not criticism. They have to produce a certain amount a week, otherwise they can't pay the rent. I'm not it's one of the things. So my son, who's a rebbe in the yeshiva, so he does get livelihood from being a cipher, but it's not his primary livelihood. So as long as it takes, it takes. He has the liberty to do that, but not everyone does. So that's why it's different today. Today we would expect the sofer to be doing all of these things.
Rabbi, question,
Yes.
maybe in particular, do they write, they just write one kitab, or if you order
So it
a different,
depends. So my to the shortest, the younger of my sons to do it. He's not my younger son, but he's my full son. But the younger one, he writes just a Rizal. My
okay,
oldest son, who's a sofer, he writes a Rizal, Beis Yosef, Alter Rebbe, Sfadi. He writes everything.
uh-huh.
He and also he's I don't know if a wholesaler is the right word, but he also works at other sofrim and sells quite a bit as well.
Mm.
But that's
So
actually
that's
unusual, sofrim to be the right
it's
multiple.
amazing talent to be able to write all the different,
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, he is obviously ask any parent. The child's the genius and the but nevertheless, I have to say it gives the tremendous knock. Especially it was something I always wanted to do, and I never had the hands to do it. And then my first son who went into it could do everything. It certainly gives me tremendous nachas, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. His grandparents are listening too, so I hope they're having nachas as well. Okay, let's squeeze in one more piece. Hana Rabbanan, holchim bedrachim bayoim, betur min sukkah bayoim, v'chayvim b'layla. So if someone who's traveling, so they're traveling during the day, but they're stopping at night. At night they stop and they go to sleep. So by this, I mean, obviously everyone's, if they're traveling during the day, they sleep during the night. But what we mean is that they're going to the motel. They're not camping by the roadside. So if you're traveling by day and at night you're stopping in each town as you go along, you're staying the night. At night, so during the day you're exempt from the sukkah, but at night you're obligated because why not? You're not a traveler at night time. Those who travel by night. It's the opposite, maybe it's a hot, they're traveling through Arizona or Florida or somewhere before the for air conditioning in the vehicle. You're going on the back of a camel or something. So you travel at night, where it's cooler, and you sleep during the day. Stop at the towns. So those ones between the sukkah balayla, they're the opposite. They're exempt at night, but they're obligated during the day. Holchim Drachim b'yom u'balayla, but those who travel by both day and night. So they're camping by the side of the road wherever they are. They just pull over. Turim and a sukkah bein b'yom bein b'layla. They are exempt both at night and day. And hochlim devar mitzvah. Those who are traveling to do a mitzvah, for example, to redeem captives or whatever happens to be, but turim bein b'yom bein b'layla. In other words, they're also exempt. So we don't say to them, okay, you come to the motel. So someone is just traveling because they're traveling. Okay, you're coming to the town, find a sukkah. So it'll take you an hour. Bad luck, take an hour. You're traveling to a mitzvah, and particularly a mitzvah that is time is of the essence. Totally exempt. Okay. Any questions? All right. So in that case, I guess we'll finish up. Rabbi Sim is back tomorrow, God willing. So those who we normally see on Sunday afternoons, looking forward to seeing you then. And everyone else, you're welcome to join us Sunday afternoons.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I don't remember the details, but there was a story that a girl had written to the Rebbe, and she was going out on a date, and she was trying to marry somebody that was Yer Shemayim and a Lamdim, and she wasn't sure how to find that, how to measure that, how to find it in a person. So the Rebbe told her to ask the dorm mother, which was Mrs. Gansberg al-Basham in Crown Heights, of the girls' yeshiva. So she, you know the story.
No, I don't think so.
So she told the girl to go out on a date with a guy, right around the time, like maybe about a half hour, an hour before Mincha, and to go to a restaurant. So they went out on a date, and they're sitting there the whole time. It's 4:00, 4:30, coming 5:00, coming to time of Mincha, and he's not moving to daven Mincha. So she says to him, if you want to take a break to go daven Mincha, I'll wait. So he says to her, Isaac, b'mitzvah, poter min a mitzvah. Like, in other words, I'm
All right, so she got her
getting
answer.
married, I'll have to daven Mincha.
It's good she got it the first day. Sometimes when people, they call about reference different people, okay, even if they're all nice people, doesn't mean they're made for each other. Always say, Hashem should bless you, go quickly and smoothly, whichever way. Quickly and smoothly. So that was quick and smooth, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
All right. So wish everyone a wonderful week.
Shukran, Rabbi. Thank you.
See you. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.